Hello everyone and welcome to the Evoke vlog. This is episode 4, and today we're going to talk a bit about thinking diagonally. But first, I have some announcements. First and foremost, my Urchin remix just passed 1,000 plays on SoundCloud, which I am ecstatic about. Thanks to everybody for the support. That's the most plays I think I've gotten in such a short amount of time. If you like my remix, or if you haven't heard my remix, please go show it some love. Link is in the description. Share it around. Show some friends. Second thing, I've got another free tune for you guys coming out later this month on the Adapted Up-and-Comers compilation. Definitely a weird tune. It's got some like indie guitar and I go in and out of falsetto. There's a lot of neuro basses and then like a music box piano thing. If that sounds interesting to you, there's going to be a link to that later this month. Third thing is that I'm still answering questions for the Neurohop Forum. There's been a lot of good questions that I've tried to answer to the best of my ability. I'm answering anything and everything, so go ahead and post your questions up on that forum link. As always, links in the description. Check it out. What I want to talk about today is something that I like to call thinking diagonally. And this is sort of a method of working and a method of thinking of things that I find helps get creative results and more effective results and more consistent results. People talk a lot about thinking laterally when it comes to sound design. They say that you need to get outside of the box because the common ground method never really produces new results. If you go with common wisdom, you're not going to get anything new and you're not going to get any results that aren't expected. And I agree with this. But when people talk about thinking laterally, I'm reminded a bit of taxicab geometry, which is where the distance between 2 points is the same regardless of which direction you actually go. Really, in my mind, what one should shoot for is diagonal thought. Methods that aren't really used by most people, and yet are more effective than the methods that most people would use. This may sound a little bit confusing, but I'll give an example. When widening, one could use the common knowledge method and use a chorus to widen out their sound, or they could use the spread knob on their favorite synthesizer to get the sound to be wider. There's some very simple and well-known ways of doing that. You can delay the track from one ear to the other using a ping pong delay or something like that. Pretty simple stuff. You can widen it that way. But if you're trying to think outside of the box and think laterally, you could say, I'm going to take my left channel and my right channel, and I'm going to export those individually and delay one slightly more than the other. And I'm going to put different effects on one than I am on the other, and I'm going to do all sorts of cool stuff, and then I'm going to resample it back together, and that's how I'm going to widen my sound. And yes, that is different, but is it actually better? Thinking diagonally, we can approach this in sort of a unique and direct way. You can have two parallel chains. One that only has the mids of your signal because the sides are high-passed out with a mid-side EQ, and one that only has the sides of your signal because the mids are high-passed out with a mid-side EQ. Then what you can do is take the sides and just boost the gain. So you could theoretically boost the volume of your stereo content by 12 decibels, and then you could reverb it, you could distort it. You have very direct control in that way. So when trying to think outside of the box, rather than trying to figure out complicated ways to do simple things, try and figure out simple ways of doing things that are just different. Thinking this way, it's also a lot easier to identify problems in your effect chain. If you use the second method where you resample out left and right and do all sorts of crazy effects on each, there's any number of different places that the artifacts could be coming from there. You have no real direct control, and after you've resampled it back together, there's no way of going back. With the diagonal method, what you have is a very simple, specific routing algorithm where nothing has technically been changed. It's very simple and easy for you to just say, I want the sides to be less loud. I'll just turn it down 2 decibels. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about exactly what you've done. With effects like choruses and phasers, it's really easy for people to get confused because a lot of people, myself included, don't know exactly what those effects do. I don't know if the chorus is over-widening. I don't know if the phaser is over-widening. I don't know if it's the combination of the two. Whereas if you have the chain containing all of your sides isolated, it's very easy to see what effects are contained therein. This is why I'm a huge advocate of parallel routing. If you split your audio up into 2 different channels, one of which contains all the content that the other does not, mid, side, below 200 hertz, above 200 hertz, left, right. If you have 2 different channels, you can affect each one of them really deliberately and get really great control over your sound. I guess what I'm trying to say is always try to find the simplest and most direct solution, even if it may not be the most common one. So that brings us to my 2 favorite freebies from around the web. The first track is a track called Silver by Ordure that was released on the Glitch Shop compilation. Ordure always has the best grooves and some of the best beats of any producers that I've ever heard. They really know how to hone in on that sort of hip-hop inspired, really just driving rhythm, and this song really showcases that in an amazing way. It's got those sort of gangster vibes and also has this really nice beat that carries it through while still maintaining the awesome sound design that they're so well known for. The second song is actually a little bit of a curveball. It's called T by Quok. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Q-U-O-K. So your guess is as good as mine. This song is one of the most beautiful pieces of ambience that I've heard in a long time. This is a song that, after I heard it, I was listening to it on repeat for the entirety of the rest of my day. It is great for chilling out, drinking a cup of tea, making tea with your girlfriend. It's good for all sorts of stuff, and this is one of the most underappreciated producers that I know of. Definitely show this guy some love. He's one of the most creative people, especially as young as he is, that I've heard in this scene. By the way, if you have a song that you want to be featured in Evoke's favorite freebies, go ahead and send a message to my Facebook inbox. Earlier I said that you could send it to my YouTube inbox. With the new system, I actually don't know if there is one, and if so, where it might be. So my recommendation is to send it to either my Facebook inbox on the Evoke account, send me a message on SoundCloud, either of those things will work. Post a link to the free song. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As always, keep fighting the good fight, producing great tunes. Cheers.